One Piece is a series that I would highly recommend for the sheer size and creativity of its world. It's also really, really long. The thing with recommendations for stuff like movies, games, and especially anime is that you're going to have to accept the fact that some people just won't be interested in what you want to recommend. Except of course Mega Man and Bass for the Game Boy Advance, which is a flawless masterpiece that you should drop whatever you're doing to check out. There's plenty of reasons that One Piece could seem off-putting to someone. For instance, the Toei adaptation absolutely murders the pacing, and not everyone is willing to just read the manga instead. One Piece also has a fair bit of problematic content, both inside and outside the text itself, so wanting to avoid the series is understandable. But the main thing that keeps people away from One Piece is its length. I'm not sure how unpopular of an opinion this is, but One Piece is kind of long. Since not everyone has a ridiculous amount of time to invest, it's perfectly valid to avoid One Piece for that reason. One Piece is a series where the length is a big part of the appeal, and if an overly long series doesn't sound appealing to you, you're probably not gonna like One Piece. In an ideal world, one person would give a recommendation, the other would politely refuse, and both would move on with their lives. Surely this won't be too hard for both parties in the exchange. In this massive Twitter conflict, there are two main combatants. Let's just call them the pro-One Piecers and the anti-One Piecers. The pro-One Piecers can best be described as a religious organization whose members worship Ichiro Oda as their one and only god. Instead of weekly church visits, they have weekly chapter releases. Instead of receiving bread and wine every week, they receive the exact same One Piece is crazy good image every week. And the pro-One Piecers will try to spread Oda's word by any means necessary.
弟も死んだんですか？
今関係ねえじゃん。今ワンピの話だろ。
On Twitter, the pro-One Piecers are like a swarm of locusts. If you even think of asking about anime recommendations, millions of pro-One Piecers will magically teleport to your location. And then there's the Twitter shonen battles, which pro-One Piecers are active participants in. I've talked about how interesting some fans of Dragon Ball and JoJo can be, but all shonen series have those types of fans. Bleach has fans who are fed up with seeing their series get constantly shit on and will lash out at any given opportunity. Demon Slayer has fans who shield the series solely because one clip was well animated. And Hunter x Hunter has fans who perceive themselves as intellectually superior because they watched an Alexander video once. For these radical parts of their respective fan bases, Twitter is a giant battle dome where combatants fight to prove that their series is the best and that all others are mid. And if you're one of these people, I have a PSA for you. Instead of spending time fighting others, you should start connecting with those people and understanding why their respective series means so much to them. Cause then, you'll realize that no matter what series you like, no matter what you like about said series, and no matter what your tastes are, all these anime are equally inferior to you. This intense battleground trained the pro-One Piecers to be ready to both defend and shill for their series at any given opportunity. With a faction as powerful and as threatening as the pro-One Piecers, it was only natural that the anti-One Piecers would emerge in opposition. This faction started out reasonable enough. They retaliated against the pro-One Piecers through lighthearted jokes about the series' length and jokes about the more extreme One Piece fans. But eventually, the anti-One Piecers would become the very thing they swore to destroy, mildly annoying on the internet. You see, the more you repeat a joke, the less funny it becomes. And yeah, the joke of One Piece being long was repeated a lot. So after a certain point, a good chunk of people started to find the joke annoying, especially since some people just use the meme as an excuse to shit on a series they've never watched / read. And with both the pro-One Piecers and the anti-One Piecers growing in power, all it would take for an all-out war to break out would be one push. But what could that push possibly be? Let me just lay out two statements related to Twitter. Statement number 1, the more time Twitter users spend on the website, the more revenue Twitter receives. Statement number 2, people spend more time on Twitter if they're arguing with other people. Both of these statements are really agreeable on their own, so it shouldn't be too much of a leap to say that Twitter as a company has an incentive to design its website in a way that encourages people to argue with each other. Now, obviously, there is no official confirmation for this, but I don't think it would be too unreasonable to say that Twitter's algorithms just might be designed in a way that encourages users to argue with each other, whether intentionally or not. And while you're probably thinking of how this applies to the discussion of stuff like actually serious political issues, this also applies to stupid shit, like say some dumb pirate cartoon. If you kinda like One Piece, Twitter's algorithm is going to show you people shitting on it. If you don't particularly care for One Piece, Twitter's algorithm is going to show you One Piece fans being really annoying. That is how people get radicalized into pro-One Piecers and anti-One Piecers. That is how the great One Piece Twitter war started, and that is why said war will never end.